I'm Brigham, the Product Design Director at Outdoor Vitals, also the kind of lead on the design and creation of the Altura Dynamic Pant. Part of our design process and R&D process here is if we have ideas, we put them into a product and we test that. And we have some friends in the industry. They have a separate company that we align with pretty well, and I've been sending them prototypes of like a lot of the products that we've released over the years to get their feedback, because I know how they use their gear. They're very minimalist and ultralight minded. And those friends of ours kind of reached out to us. The idea was just really comfortable pants that just work, that are reliable, built for the mountains, built for the backcountry, built for mobility and comfort. And their thoughts were like, there's kind of a need for that. And kind of my response was like, I couldn't agree more. Even in our own lineup of products, we have one pair of pants that is really designed to be kind of a dual purpose pant, but we don't have a dedicated, kind of dedicated or specialized specific pant for the backcountry or the mountains, let alone a piece that's, really dialed in for mobility and comfort when we step off the trail and start covering a lot of miles off the trail, where we can't count on a nicely maintained trail system, off-camber, high-angle terrain, rocks, shrubs, and those types of things, that we just didn't have a pant for that. That's kind of the beginnings of the Altura Dynamic Pant. The target objective for the pants was, again, pretty simple, just with a focus on comfort and mobility. There were a few things that were kind of requirements on the wish list, like an adjustable waist belt, hip vents, mesh-backed hip vents for temperature regulation, again, with that focus on comfort, and then a four-way stretch fabric was kind of another one of those like must-haves. I spend a lot of time outside of the summer months in the mountains, specifically off trails in really steep mountain terrain. It's really easy for me to kind of envision what this pant would turn out to be, because it was kind of like a pant that I want and a pant that I know other people that do the same things that I do, a pant that they would want too. So with the beginning of a project, of a product development like this, fabric choice is always one of the first choices to make, and then fit, how a pair of pants fits really impacts its performance. They weren't intended to be a feature-rich or a really highly featured pant. As is pretty typical, we kind of put every detail under the microscope, and we're like, if there is going to be a pocket, well, what should this pocket look like? How should this pocket sit? Where should it be situated? Angles, things like that, minimizing bulk. I mean, we got first prototypes made with that basic pocket set that we pretty much counted on keeping throughout. The hip vent placement, the size. Because it's not meant to be like a dual purpose pant, we didn't need to have to try to obscure the zipper. We didn't need to kind of place that limitation on us. So we can use a very overt zipper, and the nice thing is those actually function better. They run smoother. The first prototype actually was a really good prototype. Comfort-wise, fit-wise, it was like 80%, maybe more than that, 80-90% there in terms of how we wanted them to fit. As we always feel like we need to do, and we're committed to doing, is like doing due diligence and testing, making sure. And we spent a lot of time in it, a lot of hiking, a lot of days and nights in the field. Sent them out to those guys that kind of were collaborating with us on these pants, and got their opinion. They spent a bunch of days and nights in the field as well, and their feedback was very positive as well. There were obviously tweaks and little changes to be made, improvements to be made. We tried some things with the type of waist belt adjustment, just to see if that was viable or functional or better or worse, really. Fabric, we started making pants out of a bunch of different fabrics, because another thing we wanted four-way stretch, but we also wanted it to be like pretty lightweight. We weren't looking for a really heavy pant. That weight, it restricts mobility, it restricts stretch. And so it's pretty interesting to look at the fabric selections that we made prototypes with, because they're all like pretty similar in how they feel and how they stretch and how much they weigh. That just kind of shows like the level of detail, finite detail, that we're really looking to get that extra 10 to 15%, you know, to really get the pant to where we want them to be. We test and iterate, we test and iterate. So making a little tweak here, getting prototypes made, trying them on, and then trying them out in the field, and then doing that multiple days, you know, so we're not just relying on you know, first impressions or one day of use before we make a change. We always want to validate our initial thoughts and make sure that they're consistent every time we use the piece. We went through many iterations of pants, even once we found or selected the fabric that ended up being what we used for final production. Still wanted to make minor tweaks to sizing or fit. It can make the difference between a pant that's, you know, 80–85% there and as close to 100% there as we can get. I've mentioned before, like, we strive for perfection, knowing that we can't get it, but that's what we work towards. And so with the pants, it was a long time and a bunch of repeat seasons of testing, and sometimes it feels a little bit like Groundhog Day because the changes are so small. What we ended up with, you know, we're happy with. I spend so much time in it, and then other guys spend so much time in it that's what gives, you know, me individually like the confidence to kind of sign off on something or get it out to the world. It worked for me. It worked for the people that I chose to test these pants, and it's a good feeling having done that. And so yeah, definitely excited to you know, be able to talk about this, to get them out to people. Now that these pants are released, it's definitely not the end of the learning process for me. I'm always going to be looking for needs, ways to improve existing products, ways to improve our product line, and opportunities to just learn and constantly adapt and improve what we bring. So yeah, it's an ongoing process, and it's definitely never over.